Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to dive into a question that honestly explains so much about our daily lives, from the food we crave to the stuff we buy. And it all kicks off with a really simple, universal feeling. I mean, you know this feeling, right? That first slice of pizza, oh my gosh. Or the first sip of coffee in the morning. It's pure bliss. But then, with every new bite, that initial magic just fades a little, doesn't it? Well, that feeling of diminishing joy, it's not just in your head. Believe it or not, this experience is a fundamental principle in economics. It's the key that unlocks how we decide what to buy, how much of it to get, and, maybe most importantly, when we finally say, all right, that's enough. So to get to the bottom of this, economists way back in the 19th century came up with a name for it: utility. You can just think of it as a satisfaction score for anything. It's its want-satisfying power. Now, here's what makes utilities so interesting. First, it is completely personal. The satisfaction I get from a mango could be totally different from what you get. It's also relative. A glass of water gives you a ton of utility when you're super thirsty, but not so much when you're not. And this is a big one. Utility is not the same as usefulness. A cigarette gives a smoker utility because it satisfies a craving, even though it's harmful. Economics doesn't judge whether the want is good or bad, just that it's being satisfied. So how does this whole satisfaction score thing actually work? Well, it really boils down to two key ideas. Okay, so on one side, you've got total utility. That's the overall cumulative satisfaction you're feeling. So if you eat 3 mangoes, it's the total score from all three combined. But then you've got marginal utility. And this one is the game changer. It's the extra bit of satisfaction you get from that next single unit. It's a bump in happiness you get from going from 2 mangoes to 3. Let's actually put some numbers on this. Just imagine we can measure satisfaction in these fake units. Let's call them utils. So that first mango, bam, 10 utils of satisfaction. The second one is still great, but it only adds another 7 utils, bringing your total up to 17. By the time you get to the fifth mango, your total satisfaction has maxed out at 22. That extra mango adds literally zero marginal utility. And if you try to force down a sixth one, you actually feel worse. The marginal utility goes negative, and it starts dragging your total satisfaction back down. And when we plot this out, the relationship just becomes so clear. This top curve here, that's your total utility. See how it goes up, flattens out, and then starts to drop? Now this bottom curve is the marginal utility, and it's always heading down. But look at this exact point right here. Your total utility is at its absolute peak at the very same moment your marginal utility hits zero. That is the sweet spot, maximum satisfaction. This totally predictable pattern, where every extra piece brings just a little less satisfaction than the one before, it is so universal that economists gave it a special name. It's basically a fundamental law of how we as consumers behave. The economist Alfred Marshall really just nailed it. He said, the additional benefit a person derives from a given increase in his stock of a thing diminishes with every increase in the stock that he already has. In other words, the more you have, the less you care about getting one more. It's the perfect economic explanation for why we value rare things and get bored with things that are everywhere. And there's the official name, the law of diminishing marginal utility. And this simple idea, it's not just some fun fact about eating pizza. It's the engine that drives pretty much all of our economic decisions. So how does this play out in the real world, with money? It's simple, really. You will keep buying something as long as the satisfaction you're going to get from the next one is worth more to you than the price you have to pay. The second that flips, when the price is more than the satisfaction you'd get, you stop. And that perfect sweet spot where the satisfaction equals the price, that's what economists call consumer equilibrium. But of course, we don't live in a world where we only buy one thing. We're constantly making choices, right? Between this and that, trying to squeeze the most happiness we can out of our limited budget. So how does utility explain that? Well, the big idea here is getting the most bang for your buck. To maximize our overall happiness, we subconsciously try to arrange our spending so that the satisfaction we get from the last dollar we spend on coffee is the same as the last dollar we spend on a sandwich. If we're getting more joy per dollar from the coffee, we'll naturally buy more coffee and less sandwich until it all evens out. This whole balancing act has a name, the law of equimarginal utility. Now, look, this is a beautiful, elegant model. But the real world is messy. And this theory, it's definitely not without its flaws and its critics. Probably the biggest critique is this whole idea of cardinal utility. I mean, can we really put a number on satisfaction, like 10 utils? A lot of modern economists say no way. They prefer something called ordinal utility, which just says we can rank our preferences. Like, I know I like apples more than I like oranges, but I can't tell you exactly how much more. And the criticisms don't stop there. The model kind of assumes money always has the same value, but come on, $1 is worth way more to you when you're broke than when you're rich. It also tends to treat goods as if they're independent, but we all know that's not true. The utility of coffee goes way, way up if you have sugar to go with it. So, you might be thinking, if this model has all these holes in it, why is it still taught as a cornerstone of economics? Why do we even care? Here's the bottom line. Even if the numbers are a bit imaginary and the assumptions are a little shaky, the core insight, it's just so powerful. The law of diminishing marginal utility gives us a brilliant and simple explanation for a fundamental piece of our behavior. The more you have of something, the less you want one more. That one idea is the psychological foundation for the entire law of demand. And that leaves us with a final thought, especially for our modern world of, well, abundance. With all-you-can-eat buffets and endless streaming services, are we losing our built-in sense of when to stop? Does our marginal utility ever actually hit zero anymore? Or have we just found new ways to keep pushing that point further and further away? Thanks for watching.